Good morning. Woke up to some bad news today. Well, it's bad news, but it's expected. Ferdinand Piech, the longtime chairman of Volkswagen Group, he passed away this morning. No one said anything about how, but he's very healthy, you know, and he went out for dinner and don't know what happened and ended up in the clinic, and then he passed away in the clinic. So he wasn't, even though he's 82 years old, he wasn't dying of old age or whatever, but we'll just have to see if we'll ever know what happened. Most of the time, I notice the rich, they don't really share how these important people died or met their fate, and it's sad that of course those of us in the know would try our best to remember him. Unfortunately, he was unfortunate that he was, how do I put this? He had to leave behind what he built just a few years short of his passing. So not many people might have known him, but to us in the automotive industry, he is a legendary figure. If I were to say if there is someone more legendary than him, that would have only been his grandfather, Ferdinand Piech. Okay, but to be a successful person in the automotive world, you cannot just be great at engineering and not be good in other things, right? Ferdinand Piech might be a great engineer, but if you look back into the history, he might not be particularly a good businessman. You know, he's great in inventing stuffs, and he's phenomenal in inventing stuffs. And for his early years, he was just this engineering consultant to Auto Union and Mercedes-Benz, or Daimler Motoren Gesellschaft back then. That's what they call. You know, there was an era whereby the four rings and then the pointed star, they were dominating races all over Europe, and that's why they were called the Silver Arrows. Silver Arrows were plural back then, alright? And of course, Auto Union, which consists of the four rings, DKW, Wanderer, Horch, and Audi. These four brands that was merged under the instruction of the German government back then, became this four rings, hence four rings, right? Hence Audi is four rings, because it's made up of these four brands. But what of the four brands, one of it is Audi, right? And all four of them together was called Auto Union. So why is it that we now know Audi as the four rings? You know who's doing is that? It was Ferdinand Piech. Anyway, go back then to his grandfather's era first, Ferdinand Piech. And during that era, Auto Union is huge. Daimler Motoren Gesellschaft is huge. They both race. And amazingly, both of them, their craziest achievements, you know, their crazy cars, the cars that they built that beat everybody, most of them were from Ferdinand Piech. After the racetracks, after they felt bored at racetracks, winning, they're like, no, the engineering challenge is to go as fast as possible, you know, land speed record. So 1937, Auto Union, you know, showed this crazy streamline, Type C streamliner. It looked like something from year 3000, you know, but it's from 1937. and that bugger goes up to 427 km/h in 1937. So you cannot, sometimes you cannot blame the Europeans for coming over to Southeast Asia and think that they are a different species, you know, because to them, if both are humans, why they must have think. You cannot blame the white people for thinking that they are a superior race, because if you think back at 1937, they with all this crazy stuff, don't forget 1937 is already about 40 years. Yeah, 40 years since Autocar UK published the first car magazine. I kid you not. Alright, the first car magazine was published in 1896 by Autocar in UK, and they already have electric cars. Porsche already made hybrids with motors in the wheels. I'm not joking, and they have electric taxis in Europe. Yeah, before 1900s, you know, in Europe. So you cannot, sometimes you cannot blame them for coming over. These barbarians, let's conquer them and teach them some manners and teach them what civilization is. You know, granted, whatever we want to say about colonialism, whatever, that's the fact back then. You know, and without the Brits, we won't have all this infrastructure, all these systems, government systems that allows Malaysia to prosper after that. Anyway, so. And then Mercedes wanted to counter back with the Type 80 or whatever, T80 or whatever. That was also designed by Ferdinand Porsche, and that was designed to go up to 600 km/h back in 1930s. And then World War II broke out, and the whole Europe went to war. And during the war, Auto Union was bombed to smithereens. Basically, nothing was left. Auto Union, there's no Auto Union, right? Every factory was gone. The employees were nowhere to be found. Where are the bosses? Where are the documents? The patents? Whatever. Nothing was left. Yeah. So after the war, of course, Ferdinand Porsche was arrested because, I mean, you have to serve your government during the war. You cannot say that any engineer that was instructed to work for the government is committing atrocious humanity or whatever, because you are serving your country. It is a duty for everybody to serve their country, right? So yes, Ferdinand Porsche created the big tanks. Is it the Panzer? I forgot, or Tiger or something like that. Okay, and he also created the Volkswagen Beetle. It was not called Beetle back then. It's a funny thing. Okay, it was a scam by Hitler to take people's money so that he can go to war. Okay, in Africa. So the whole thing is this. Okay, Hitler wants to invade Africa and kick Italy out of whatever. Yes, Italy was with and not with, and I don't know. Okay, anyway, it wasn't Italy or UK or whatever. Okay, I'm not sure. Or was it First World War that they were against the Italians? Anyway, now Italians was with Germans back in World War II, but then Mussolini fell and then they turned sides. Anyway, basically Hitler wanted a car that can go North Africa, and the water will be scarce in the deserts. He wanted a car that is air cool. Okay, and of course you go to the greatest engineer you have back then, that would be Ferdinand Porsche. Okay, so Ferdinand Porsche designed this car. I know the design is a bit copying the Tatra from Czech. Anyway, but it looks like that. It's 1930s, 40s style. Okay, so that car was created for Hitler to go to war without worrying about their engine overheated. It's lightweight, so it can go on sand and stuff like that, and low maintenance. And yeah, the symbol of freedom and peace and hippie is actually basically the beetle that symbolizes freedom and peace and all that was actually created to kill people back then. that's the beetle. So that started it. And then how do they fund the building of so many war machines, right? So Hitler came up with a genius plan. I don't know whether Hitler came up with this plan or was it Ferdinand Porsche. I would think it's somebody else instead of Porsche. You know, he's not a particularly brilliant businessman, but he's all right. Okay, anyway. So the car was created, and they did a campaign over it. It's called the KDF Wagen. Okay, I don't know what does it stand for. Kraft der Freude Wagen or something like that. Basically, the name is damn cheeky. Strength through joy wagon. Yes, I kid you not. Strength. So back then, Hitler wanted his people to feel that they are strong. You know, the Aryan race, or what do they call it? The Aryan race, superior and all that. So he want them to feel the strength of their people through joy. You know, he built a giant resort, seaside resort, for his people to go there and stay. You know, and he wanted Germans to all have better genes. Yes. So what he did was he encouraged little contests of beautiful family. Basically, a healthy, beautiful mother and a healthy, beautiful father get married, and you have as much kids as possible. Government will subsidize you, will give you. They want to have better genes, basically. And what he did was to take care of those people with disabilities, with sickness, with whatever, to take care of them. The government took care of them, but when you put them into care camps or whatever, you have to segregate between male and female, right? Yep. That basically prevented them from having offsprings. Now, put it this way: if you think strategically, if you don't put in any morality or any humanity, right? You just go pure strategic, all right? That is how farmers or breeders eliminate weak genes, right? It might sound very harsh, very cruel, but in the real world, there is this thing about genes, right? And of course, you can train, you can whatever, but we all know that. You see that hot guy, not like me, fat and flabby, you know, and they are smart, they are fit, they are healthy, they are basically just more superior, you know. I've seen people like that. I'm like, the world is unfair, you know. And people like this, they have great genes, and if they marry with another person with great genes, they're gonna have greater genes. Basically, that's what Hitler thinks, right? Back then, that's how he ran his country. So okay, back to topic. I'm sorry, but all these are interrelated, you know. So that's why it's called Strength Through Joy Wagon. It's part of his campaign. So he wants every German household to be able to own a car. Mind you, that was 1930s. Cars are not cheap, okay, comparatively to the standards of living. It was more like I mean, people with higher than average income, they are able to own cars, not everybody. So what Hitler did was a very smart thing. You know those little booklets that we have not booklets, that little stamp card you have at Starbucks, at Coffee Bean, where you buy one and then they put a stamp, and when you fill up your stamp, you get to claim one drink. Yeah, that idea came from Hitler. Okay, that's a joke, okay, but basically that's how it is, right? Everybody was so excited, they wanted a car, and Hitler said, I have this perfect scheme that helps you to own a car even though you might not be able to afford it now. Hey, this is car loan way. This is if banks were to do this now, there will be zero car loan default, even though this is in some ways a loan. Okay, no, not a loan, a scheme, a car financing scheme. Okay, how this works is this: you get the stamps, and then every month when you get your salary, you pay a certain portion, and then the government will give you a stamp. You don't get your car first, alright? You pay first, they give you a stamp. And then once you finish paying up, the car is yours. Wow, isn't that awesome? It's reverse car loan, right? You pay installment first before you got your car. So, and of course, some people got it, some people don't. But the point is, at the same time, so many people can drop in their bookings, start paying for installments for Hitler to start building his strength through joy wagon, or the Volkswagen Beetle per se. And guess what he did with it? Of course, the first batch is not the batch he's gonna send to the German public to be happy. The point of happiness is strength. So why bother about happiness when you have strength, right? The first batch went to Wall Street. That's what he did. So that cemented Ferdinand Porsche's role in Hitler. Of course, there are a lot of other things that I may not know. I'm not from that era. The only thing I know is, I know all this from my passion, from my years of passion with the car industry, the people behind. Anyway, that's all I know. And I didn't study anything before I wrote this video. I was fetching my son to school. I saw the news that he passed away. I wrote something like a eulogy for on the horizon, and then I'm on my way back home now. Anyway, so after the war, Ferdinand Porsche was arrested, and then of course, indictment and whatever, Hitler, they were basically at the end he was freed at the end. Okay, there were rumors that Ferry Porsche, his son, basically wanted to start a car company to make money to help his father, or whatever it is. Okay, it's turmoil, right? And they don't actually own a car company, right? They basically, it's war, it's government link, blah 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 blah. When the government is down, you're not sure whether you are part of anything or whatever or not. But nevertheless, Ferry Porsche, the son, basically used the platform of the Beetle, which was designed by his father, to create the first Porsche and started selling it. They need money, right? Create the first Porsche. And during this time, so Ferdinand Porsche has two children, Louise Porsche and Ferry Porsche. Okay, so Ferry Porsche was the guy who started the Porsche car company. It wasn't Ferdinand Porsche that started the Porsche car company. Alright, but before Ferry Porsche started the Porsche car company, Louis Porsche started Porsche Holdings, right, to sell all the KDF wagons at the time, and a car dealership and blah blah. Okay, so then of course, it started off as KDF wagon, then it becomes Volkswagen, and people's car, basically, for people to own, right? So which overlaps what, I'm not sure, but that wasn't so important in this context. Now it's more to know who did what, who is what, right? Who's who. So then we all know now, right? There's Louis Porsche, and there's Ferry Porsche, and Louis Porsche married Antoine Piech. Okay, this guy, which is the Menantu of Ferdinand Porsche, he's the son-in-law of Ferdinand Porsche. He's a genius. He's a businessman. Okay, he's smart. Blah 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 blah. He's good, basically. So he is crucial in restarting Volkswagen with the Brits. Okay, so at that time there was fear of the spread of communism, and the Western forces, Americans and Brits, were adamant that they must quickly restart the industrial of Germany, the industrial might of Germany, to fix the economy, to get people to work, let them have jobs, so that they won't have stuffs like revolution or strikes and things like that. They need to stabilize Germany, because half of it was taken by the Soviets, right? And it was a clash of ideology. Anyway, so restarting the Volkswagen plant became crucial, and key of which Ferdinand Porsche is involved, of course, because he's the guy behind, he's the man behind, and Antoine Piech, right? And basically it's the name Anthony, but I don't know in which language becomes Antoine or French or German or Antoine or whatever. Basically it's the name Anthony, okay? So he married Louis Porsche, and they formed Porsche Holdings, which predates Porsche Car Company. Porsche Holdings will be the company that sells the cars that they manufacture after the war, right? It is now the biggest car dealership group in Europe, and it's also I think we all heard of this name a while ago, Porsche Holdings taking over of Volkswagen Malaysia's operations, right? So anyway, so that's Porsche Holdings. So Antoine or whatever, they gave birth to a child called Ferdinand Piech. Alright? And Ferry Porsche gave birth to a son called Wolfgang Porsche. Okay? So Ferdinand Piech no longer carries the Porsche surname, right? That's an unfair thing. I mean, women married out and then they have to adopt the surname. Anyway, so now we have the two scions of the illustrious family. Okay? Just to be respectful to Wolfgang Porsche, because his father is Ferry Porsche and his grandfather is Ferdinand Porsche, I shall not be too harsh in describing Wolfgang Porsche. Okay? He's an idiot. Okay? Yeah. And then Ferdinand Piech, he's a genius. He's an absolute genius. Okay? So let's say how they start. Of course, they start by working in the group and all that. But Ferdinand Piech is a brilliant engineer, just like his grandfather. Wolfgang Porsche, of course they have money. It's a powerful family. After they rebuilt the car company, and then the Ferry started the Porsche car company, they are okay. They're doing well. They're all right. And Wolfgang Porsche imports some, I forgot, Suzuki or Yamaha bikes, and to sell it in Austria. Oh, all of them are Austrians. You know, there was a period of time where Austrians and Germans they're like together, you know, so they are like brothers and sisters, like Singaporeans and Malaysians. Okay, basically I see them as the same race, same people, same culture. Yeah. I mean, his family has all this great stuff, right? And all he can do is, I'm gonna sell some Japanese motorbikes in Austria. And maybe that didn't work out, and then he applied a job in Mercedes-Benz. Yeah. Why Mercedes-Benz when your family runs, right, Volkswagen and Porsche? Obviously he's not talented, and all he wants is pride. That's why he applied for a job in Daimler-Benz, just to, hey, I'm in a luxury car maker. Basically he's an idiot who plays with trains and all that. He's a stupid idiot. Alright, compared to his cousin. Maybe he's smarter than me, but compared to his cousin, he's a stupid idiot. Anyway, this video is not about him. Then we go back to Ferdinand Piech. This guy is instrumental in a lot of things that we see now in the car industry. Okay, first thing he did, that I can tell, okay, they are good in making everyday people's car, but when they look at Mercedes-Benz, we need a luxury car brand, right? Porsche is a sports car brand, so they don't see it as luxury car brand. There's no such thing as luxury car brand actually back then. But he remembered, right, how great Auto Union was, right? And it's sad to see Germany not having one of the greatest car companies in the world after the war. So what he did, he bought the rights, I think from the German government or whatever. I think or the I don't know who holds the right to it. Maybe the workers' union or whatever shit. Basically, he bought the rights to the Audi name, Audi, right? And decided to use the 4 rings as Audi's logo, because there's no Audi after the war. That's why if you ask old people back in the 70s, 60s, they don't even know what the hell is Audi. They only know Mercedes-Benz, Volvo, right? So, and he was the guy who is instrumental in restarting Audi. Okay, and after they restart Audi, yeah, I mean they sell whatever they can build, you know, and it is his team under his lead that they created Quattro. Yep, the first to bring 4-wheel drive to racing. I mean, 4-wheel drive is out there, but to design it in a way that is compact enough and low enough to go racing, that is another thing. All right, so basically how Quattro works, you know how 4-wheel drive works. You have the engine, you have the transmission, you have an axle going to the back, and then you have another shaft sideways going up to the front. No, that's not how he does it. He does a hollow shaft going to the back, and in there the other shaft was in that shaft going back to the front. Genius. So that culminated in the Audi Quattro rally car, and we all know what happened, right? That car cemented Audi's legendary status in racing. That car beat everybody else in rallying. It's a monster, because at the time nobody thought of using 4-wheel drive to rally, right? And that is also the car that culminated in the creation of stuffs like Subaru Impreza WRX and Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 4-wheel drive rally machines. Okay, so that was from the Audi Quattro. And Ferdinand Piech is instrumental in rebuilding Audi into what it is today, right? Not only that, in the 90s, Volkswagen went into trouble, almost bankrupt, and he was then the CEO or chairman or whatever of Volkswagen Group. Volkswagen is not a group back then, and he turned around the company in a few short years. Can you imagine this? 1990, 91, it almost bankrupt. But in 1998, Volkswagen was fighting to buy over Rolls-Royce and Bentley with Mercedes-Benz and BMW, and Volkswagen put up the biggest bid and BMW sort of cheated and got Rolls-Royce. It's a hilarious story. Basically, Volkswagen thought they have bought the entire Rolls-Royce and Bentley automotive, right? And the factory, the patents, the old product prototypes, everything, the engines that Rolls-Royce and Bentley ever had was bought up for 700 over million or something like that. And the funny thing is, BMW found out that the patent or the trademark of the RR logo resides with RR engines. Rolls-Royce also makes aircraft engines, right? The rights to that was with Rolls-Royce engines, and they sort of bought the rights or the license to manufacture cars using the RR logo for 70 million. I kid you not. 70 million is all BMW spent in acquiring the rights to build Rolls-Royce. So yeah, that's part of the history. Anyway, so back then Ferdinand Piech obtained Bentley, at first Rolls-Royce, but then they gave it up. Instead of suing left, right, center, they gave it up. And then Lamborghini and the rest as we know it, Seat, Skoda and all that. But even before that, even before Quattro, you know, he once worked in Porsche, And that time, Porsche wasn't as legendary as they are now. You remember this? Porsche only started rather late, okay? And they are not as famous as Ferrari. They are like an upstart back then, you know. And first car, the platform was a Beetle. I mean, slow as fuck, right? So Ferdinand Piech created the 917, Porsche 917, the legendary Le Mans car, and entered it into Le Mans. And he went in. See, Ferrari was like double whammy. Ferrari rejected the sale to Ford, right? Then Ford created the GT40 and gave a left punch to Ferrari in Le Mans. No, actually it's a triple punch because first, second, third, and pop, pop, pop. And Ferrari was like, fuck, my reputation, you know, my revenge, you know. and just as he thought he's gonna beat Ford, right? Fucker Porsche came out with a 917. 917 just beat everybody, and Ferrari cannot take this. You know, that was his what he's known for. You know, he's most famous for, and it's his passion. You know, you beat him at Le Mans is to insult him, is to take away his balls and swallow it and spit it out. You know, so he vouched to create a car that can revenge or beat the 917, okay? So much so that he had to sell half of his company to Fiat in order to have the money to develop the 512, to homologate it, to join Le Mans, to try and beat the 917, and he failed. Yes, Ferrari sold half of his company to Fiat because of Ferdinand Piech's genius, you know. And that totally cemented Porsche's reputation in the racing world, and also the DNA in Porsche until now. These are all works of Ferdinand Piech. And when he built up the Volkswagen Group, what did he do? He once all these amazing achievements, you know, building the Bugatti Veyron, the W16 engine, right? Even back in those days, during the 90s, the VR6 engine, right? He's an engineering guy. He's a person where to achieve engineering feat, he don't mind losing money. He don't mind losing money, but as long as he's able to create that crazy engineering feat, because he knows in the car business, if you are aggressive, if you invented things, right, that nobody else can do, you win sales. People will buy your cars when they respect you, when they know that you're good, right? He knows this. Just like his grandfather, engineering is at the forefront. There's no loss. There's no such thing as losing money when you spend it on engineering, because you gain the knowledge, you gain the expertise. So that's what he did. That's why there was a resurgence of all these crazy stuff during the past 15 years, right? He did not invent dual clutch transmission, but they are instrumental in working with their suppliers to get that thing working, get that thing cheap enough to purchase, to come out there and give driving enjoyment, right? So dual clutch transmission, and even before that, stratified fuel injection. Yes, they are not the ones. He's not the one who invented it, but you cannot deny that Volkswagen and Audi was the ones who popularized the benefits of direct injection engine, and then later on direct injection turbocharged engine, which allows Audi to be the first luxury car maker to downsize. Audi downsized in the mid 90s, right? Audi, under the stewardship of this legendary guy, Ferdinand Piech, you know, he has new thinking with what he wants to do with Audi. The old thinking is to add displacement, add engines, larger engines, blah 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 blah. He knew what to achieve with Audi. Technical expertise in high tech, using less to create more, you know. So that's why back then in the mid-90s, Audi already has those 1.8 turbocharged engines, you know, downsized engines. Of course, they still have the bigger engines to cater to the market back then, but it's very clear Audi was the first in this whole curve of engine downsizing. They are the first company that did that in the premium luxury car world, which resulted in now everybody using the same format that Audi did, right? All you need in your company is a 2-litre turbo, 3-litre turbo, 4-litre turbo. That's it. And maybe below the 2-litre turbo, if you want to lop off one cylinder, or you want to have just for regulation's sake, a 1.5, 1.4, it doesn't make any difference to production costs, but it only caters to stupid governments who form their taxation based on displacement. So the 1.4 and the 1.5 is really more for governmental regulations and all that stuff. So that whole strategy is now adopted by BMW, by Audi, by Volkswagen, by Mercedes-Benz, by everybody, almost everybody else. So that was that era. And then the creation, you did not forget about achieving the crazy stuffs. The hand-built Volkswagen Phaeton, right? Volkswagen Phaeton was built in a glass factory where the tools, right, run themselves in the factory floor using magnetized stuffs that runs around to the worker just when the worker needs that tool to fix that particular part. It's a show of engineering. It is a show off. That whole glass factory is to show off to people how amazing Volkswagen is, you know. Hence people buy their cars, right? It's a technological achievement, an engineering show off. And then he built the silo that got all the coverage. People went there to collect their cars. The machine will bring the cars down. All these things. Someone who dream, then only they can achieve things like this, you know, crazy stuffs. And all this while he was doing all these crazy, amazing stuffs, his stupid cousin is sitting there, envy of him, you know, Wolfgang Porsche. So in the 90s, Porsche also has a genius who joined the company by the name of Ferdinand Piech. So Ferdinand Piech is a genius guy. He's a businessman, he's a stockbroker, he's a share market manipulator, he's a finance guy, extremely smart person. Became the CEO of Porsche to try and save Porsche. Of course, not Wolfgang Porsche, you cannot rely on him, he's busy playing his toy trains. But still, he's the family scion, right? Then Ferdinand Piech spearheaded the creation of Boxster, and that saved Porsche. And then in 2008, 2007, Porsche made a lot of money when they planned the Cayenne, and then the Cayenne came out in 2002, 2003. It made shitloads of money off the Cayenne because, see, without the help of Ferdinand Piech, the Cayenne will never come to fruition. That time it was two companies, okay? Porsche's sales will not have justified the sole engineering or amortization of the Cayenne. Porsche alone will not be able to do it. Without the help of Ferdinand Piech in creating the Audi Q7 and the Volkswagen Touareg to help amortize the cost of Porsche Cayenne, that car wouldn't have been possible. It is a helping hand from the family. You can say it's helping hand. It's also on the trend. And Audi Q7 sold really well, Touareg as well, and Cayenne made a lot of money for Porsche, and so much so that Porsche had the audacity to try and take over Volkswagen. So that has something to do with Ferry Porsche's envy of Ferdinand Piech, right? Of course he's there too. If Ferdinand Piech doesn't know about this rivalry, he wouldn't have been so brave to even suggest like this. And for a CEO from an outsider who's not in the family, if he merely suggests this, he wouldn't have gotten traction. He must have had the support from Wolfgang Porsche. Okay, yes, Ferdinand Piech is arrogant, but he's rightfully so because he's a genius, right? So without Wolfgang Porsche giving the nod and supporting from behind. Ferdinand wouldn't have been so audacious in taking on the giants, you know, and hence it began. Then people realized that it's not just a plan of taking over Volkswagen, it is also a plan that includes manipulating the share prices of Volkswagen through the news of taking over Volkswagen to make money. So much so that in 2007, or was it 2008, Porsche registered a higher net profit than their revenue. You go and check. It's not a joke, right? That year, they sell cars, yes, they made money, but through the share price manipulation of Volkswagen, they earn more money than selling cars, right? But of course, everything suddenly came crashing down in 2008 when US Lehman Brothers collapsed, and that immediately put Porsche in a very, very bad situation. Because it was gearing so much money to try and take over Volkswagen. It's on the brink of bankruptcy back then. Porsche was on the brink of bankruptcy, and Ferdinand Piech could have just let Porsche bankrupt, right? Let his cousin be broke and sweep up the company. He could have let it went bankrupt, and when it bankrupt, he can sweep it up for cheap, right? And which is a good chance to slap his stupid cousin brother as well. But he did not. Why? Why Ferdinand Piech worked so hard is because his personal idol was his grandfather, his maternal grandfather, Ferdinand Porsche. And his greatest hatred of himself, why he works so hard, is because he doesn't carry the surname of his mother's father, you know, Porsche surname. And that's why he went out and saved Porsche, merged the two companies before Porsche bankrupt, for the sake of his grandfather, you know, kept his stupid cousin there and continue on. Sorry. So he wouldn't have let the company go down like that just because of solely because of his grandfather. And yeah, Porsche went under the wing of Volkswagen Group, and the hatred, you can imagine the amount of hatred that Wolfgang Porsche has for his cousin brother. You know, he thought he was on the brink of kicking his cousin brother out, and fuck. Then everything was alright. Everything was alright, and Ferdinand Piech wanted, you see, he never really wanted to be the biggest car company in the world merely by sales volume. He wanted to be the greatest car company in the world, not just in sales, but in technology, but in arts, in everything, in every aspect. Why he built Autostadt at the first place, right? That's what he wanted. Why he lose billions of money building Bugatti Veyron, building Phaeton. See, if everybody is just treating cars as appliances and selling them in 4 cylinders and crap shit interior and call it a day off, then there will be no one pushing boundaries anymore, right? He kept that spirit of the Europeans back in 1910s, 20s, 30s, 40s, you know, the Americans in the 40s, 50s, you know. He kept that spirit going on, the inventive spirit, you know, not fearing to lose money. If you go and study how General Motors were in the 40s, 50s, you'll be laughing at them now, the stuff that they do now, right? General Motors invent, design and build buses or road trains that can go to different cities and do motor shows there. That was General Motors back then. And now it's a far cry from what it was. So to him, he has great respect for the car industry, and he doesn't just want to build cars and sell. He wants the car company to be the greatest, biggest, you know, whatever. And his protege, Martin Winterkorn. Martin Winterkorn is a smart guy, you know, handpicked by Ferdinand Piech, and was groomed to be Ferdinand's successor. And I think he took it in a way whereby he wants to be number one in sales. He just pinned it to sales so that he can claim he's number one. And this pressure was cascaded down in such a crazy way all over the world that resulted in not just the reliability problems that we face in Malaysia, the breakdowns of cars and all that nonsense, and the diesel scandal, you know, cheating their way. I still don't think it is cheating, because if you're smart in overpowering the system, it is the system's failure in not being able to prevent you from running a loophole. For me, as long as Volkswagen is selling whatever they send to the lab, it's not cheating, right? They didn't send a different car to the lab, but you know they have the intention of cheating by doing the codes. But you, in the adult world, in the adult business world, there is no such thing as cheating or unfair, right? In the cruel world, there's only whether you are smart enough or not smart enough, or whether you have improved your protocols, your procedures to prevent this. If you did not prevent it, it is not the guy that's cheating, it is your loophole that allows this. So this word, this cheating world, or unfair, all this is nonsense. Can only come from Americans. Anyway, and that resulted in immediately Ferdinand Piech wanted to kick Martin Winterkorn out. That's why the time before the diesel scandal broke out, I believe Ferdinand Piech learned of it, learned of this thing. And that's why there are rumors back then, not rumors, there are news that came out that saying that Ferdinand is on a rough patch with his protege. People outside do not know what happened, but it's confirmed that Ferdinand Piech wanted to kick Martin Winterkorn out. And I believe, strongly believe, it's only because that he learned of this diesel scandal. Why? He's an engineer by heart. It humiliates him. It tarnishes the reputation of his grandfather for being a cheat. For him, someone who's willing to spend billions of dollars to waste, to go to losses to achieve an engineering feat. Do you think he will cheat on an engineering feat? He will not, right? And that's when the opportunity comes for that stupid cousin Wolfgang Porsche to be friend with Martin Winterkorn, do all sorts of stuffs behind, and they colluded, and this time he was successful. They voted Ferdinand Piech out of the board, and Martin Winterkorn remains, and Wolfgang thought he won a beautiful war. So what happened? How did people find out about the diesel scandal? You think it's so easy to be found by a few students? I'm not sure. And I believe if Ferdinand Piech was the guy who leaked out the knowledge of this diesel scandal in order to remove Martin Winterkorn, he also would not have expected that it became a perfect storm when the American businesses and media and government sees this as a great opportunity to again curb another big business that is making its way into US markets. US does that all the time to anybody who is building up their business in a very strong manner. They will come out with a crowbar and whack your leg while you're running fast in the US market. You know, Toyota received that treatment back in 2008, 2009, and this diesel thing was the perfect storm for the US media to blow it up out of proportions and to damage the sales of Volkswagens. In a way, it is a form of trade embargo, and I think whoever that leaked it out, or if Ferdinand Piech is the one who leaked it out, he did not have guessed it would become such a huge thing. Of course, his initial intention is to remove this person, because it's not good to have someone like that and creating something like this, you know. Anyway, it went out of proportion and he was kicked out, and that was it. He was out of the Volkswagen Group. He sold all his shares. They closed the glass factory. They stopped the production of Phaeton. They stopped Beetle. There are rumors that they might even, basically now all you can see is that it's different. It's very different now. Porsche has a new limited edition every other week. Lamborghini has one every other week, right? Even Bugatti is not what it was back then, and it's sad because he is a great leader, a great engineer, a great automotive scion, icon, and he's left. And when I visited Autostadt, they were trying to remove his legacy. You know, they're running down Autostadt now. Is lousy. It's not being improved. It's sad. It is sad. But that's life, and that's the life of Ferdinand Piech. What a long video. If you listen to the whole thing, you must be crazy. See you guys. Yeah, rest in peace, Ferdinand Piech. Yeah, I really respect this guy. Thank you. Cheers.